because you're in a computer, is the story, or you're like I don't know, I guess you're a kernel that gets put into the computer, but I don't know why that would explain the pulsating hearts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the bones and skeletons and stuff in the background.
yeah.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Kirby Conversations. I'm Sean Douglas. I'm a writer and podcaster, and I am back again with regular Kirby Conversations host, Bridget. Hi, Bridget. Welcome back.
Hey, I'm happy to be back. Thank you.
And today we are going off the beaten path to talk about someone other than Kirby, although this is still very much in the realm of Kirby. One thing that we do want to cover on this show is just everything under the umbrella of HAL Laboratory. And this is one of those episodes where we're looking at a different HAL game. We're looking at Kabuki Quantum Fighter, which was actually the most recent 2D platformer they were associated with before the release of Kirby, before the original Kirby's Dream Land. And there's a lot of history to talk about with this game, a lot of interesting localization stuff. HAL published the North American release of this game, but they did not actually develop it. And it's a rare case of HAL publishing a game that they did not develop. So it's unique in that regard, too. And we can talk about why other companies were publishing it in North America versus Europe versus Japan. There's just a lot of interesting localization stuff going on. So we're going to go into all that history. But I thought first we could just talk about what this game is and how, even if it's very different from Kirby, I think Kirby fans could still find a lot to like about this game. Especially if you like just a good old-fashioned 2D platformer. There's a lot to like here. So, Bridget, why don't I turn it over to you? What were your first impressions of Kabuki Quantum Fighter?
Well, my first impressions were that it kind of did remind me of another game like Ninja Gaiden. I don't know if you felt that. I wouldn't say it's like entirely like that game at all, but like it has that vibe. I guess I kept reading online that might actually be more like the Sunsoft Batman game, but I never played that, so I had no reference to that. But I thought it was interesting. It was definitely a darker game than like other HAL stuff. Not that there aren't darker HAL things like Arcana and even their work on like the Mother series, I guess, is a little bit darker. Although generally whimsical. But like for this one, this is like straight up like dark imagery and like intense looking enemies that are bizarre. So it just had like an entirely different vibe for me. And also difficulty wise, more demanding than a Kirby game. In that sense, it was similar to Ninja Gaiden, I felt. But generally I was into it. I felt very positive about it. I think it has a lot of quirks to it that make its like navigation interesting and distinct, especially compared to things like Ninja Gaiden. There's like a lot of like hanging off of like platforms to navigate, and there's different kinds of jumping with that, and there's a lot of verticality maybe where it's more there's a lot of navigating upward, which could be frustrating. I'm sure we'll get into that, but it's cool visual style, intense difficulty, but like interesting like ways to navigate the levels. So I liked it generally. Yeah.
Yeah, an interesting kind of almost cyberpunk vibe to some things. Almost
Yeah.
just like a little horror tinged. Like it's
Oh yeah.
not a scary game, but there's definitely kind of weird, freaky, cybernetic, biological things going on that are never fully explained.
Yeah, there's like the backgrounds are so interesting. There's like pulsating like hearts, there's like weird eyes, like alien looking things, just moving tendrils. Like it's very bizarre, and I don't know, I tried to read the story, but I don't know if I still understood it.
Yeah.
to like explain why it was like that. Because you're in a computer, is the story. You're like a, I don't know, I guess you're a kernel that gets put into the computer, but I don't know why that would explain the pulsating hearts.
Yeah.
So
The bones and skeletons and stuff in the background.
yeah, it's like okay.
Yeah, so the background of the plot here, it's the year 2056, and 25-year-old Colonel Scott O'Connor, he goes into this machine, um, and because they need him to stop this virus that has infected this like computer system that I think controls like all the Earth's defenses, like nuclear weapons and stuff are like all going haywire, and he has to stop this mysterious virus. And I guess the only way to do that is to send some military personnel into the computer by transforming him into computer code.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when he arrives in the computer, he is a Kabuki actor because his great great grandfather was previously a famous Kabuki actor.
I like how he has like a very Irish sounding name, but
Yeah.
he's like, oh, is a Kabuki actor. I mean, that's not to say his great 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 ancestor couldn't have been from Japan, but it's just very funny.
I also like that he's like, but why am I a Kabuki actor? And then like he's in like correspondence with his team that has sent him into the computer, and they're like, oh, well, wasn't your great great grandfather a Kabuki actor? And then he's just sort of like, oh, okay, and like it's not it's like, as if that explains it.
It's like, well, all right. It's like, why would he? Anyway, you can't think about it too hard. It's just, it's there to just be like, and now here's like a weird world we can make as surreal as possible. And he's a Kabuki. I don't know. It's very bizarre. It reminds me of Brave Fencer Musashi, where like the main character is also a reincarnation of a Japanese figure, but also he's in another world. It's just like this very convoluted thing that it's like I don't know. It couldn't have just been about the Kabuki actor, but I think it's probably because maybe they were hoping to bring it to the West, or maybe in localizing it, they're like gotta kind of like tone it down a little or something.
Yeah, so I think a lot of this basically comes down to just strange localization quirks. Where originally in Japan, this game is called Jugoku Gokuraku Maru, and it's based on the movie Zupang, and that's a movie about someone who turns into a samurai and goes into a computer.
I actually looked up this movie and watched clips of it, and I could tell you that it does not, I don't think it even has anything to do with computers, cuz I like kept flipping through the film to see where a computer came into play, and there's like no computer. It is just like a samurai style guy who just has many swords, various swords that he has different attachments to, traveling around with like a band of like kind of misfits guys, and then eventually saving like a girl.
Interesting. Okay, so like maybe it's just sort of like thematically a tie-in.
Yeah, like I guess it might be they might have put the character into this game to just tie it to this film, but I don't think it has much to do with the film either.
Hmm.
I think it's just that when this kid goes into the computer, he's this character from this movie. I think that's what it is cuz
Okay.
it's yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess if any listeners have seen Zipang and want to help clarify this for us, feel free to email us or something. But yeah, so I guess when they wanted to localize it, it was originally published by Pack and Video, which is normally a publisher for like mainly specifically Japanese market games. So they needed someone else to handle the North American release. So I guess they went to HAL and probably shopped it around, and HAL was like, okay, well, we could cover, the North American side. And then Nintendo handled the European publication. And they're just like, well, we've got this game. It's got a Kabuki actor in it. I guess that just is what it is.
Do you think that it also, at this time, I know that things were possibly financially precarious for HAL Laboratory. I wonder if it was just like beneficial for them to possibly earn something from sales of this game that they didn't have to actually like fund the development of. It was already like made, but I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
if
not
that
a
was.
bad theory. I tried to look it up and I really couldn't find anything that would have said like why they specifically decided to publish this. Um, I mean, it's like it came out the same year that Metal Slayer Glory came out and flopped. And maybe they were just at the point where they're like, let's just get stuff out. Like anything we can do with our
Mhm.
company, like even games that we're not making ourselves, like let's just get our name on stuff and get it out there. Because it was also
Yeah,
the first time they ever published a game that they didn't develop. The
it's
other ones,
possible.
the other ones were after this one. So yeah, that's a good theory.
Hmm.
But for whatever reason, they were drawn to this project and said, "Okay, yeah, we didn't make this, but for the first time, we're going to put our game, or we're going to put our name on a game that we didn't make."
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good one
yeah,
though.
not a bad first game to publish and not make.
Yeah.
And the makers of the game themselves are a company called Human Entertainment that no longer
Yeah.
exists, but it has broken off into like several other companies. Suda51, that famous game developer, like he got his start with Human. He did
Mm.
not work on this particular game. He joined them afterwards. But Human is known for a bunch of other games too.
They also did the mysterious Marasame Castle, which is actually a pretty cool NES game, and
Mhm,
finally got put on the NSO recently,
mhm. Nice.
not too
Yeah, I
long ago.
forgot that they did that one. Mhm.
And Clock, they worked on Clock Tower series, and I really like the SNES Clock Tower, so that's cool.
Nice. I was just watching a playthrough of Clock Tower yesterday because I hadn't heard of it before, and seems like a really cool point and click survival horror game.
Yeah, it's cool. It's visually fun too. I like that one.
Mhm. And so, like, it seems like Human Entertainment did do. I mean, they have a pretty diverse library of games. They did the first like dance rhythm game too, even before Dance Dance Revolution came
Whoa,
out. Dance Aerobics in 1987.
cool.
But they did have their share of horror games as well. And I feel like this game kind of fits into that lineage a little bit. Even if it's not a straight up horror game, it's still kind of creepy in certain ways and very atmospheric.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I like the vibe. It's a nice departure from if if you have just been playing some Kirby games lately.
Human Entertainment. Um, are you familiar with Seinfeld?
I mean, I know what Seinfeld is, but like, I'm not the most avid watcher.
Well,
I
there's
know.
a character on Seinfeld who's just like constantly lying about things. If you're
Is
familiar with
that is
George Costanza, Jason
he's the
Alexander's
guy with
character,
he's the guy with the glasses?
yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
like, there's an episode where he makes up a charity called the Human Fund, because he wants to look generous and look like he's been like making donations to charity. And like Human Entertainment just sounds like something he would have made up. Like he would have wanted to sound cool and like want to impress people. Like if there was some like Seinfeld episode where he like got into video games and like wanted to pretend to be a game developer, and they were like, "Well, what do you make games for?" Like I could see him just being like Human Entertainment. Like it just sounds like a very made up name to me.
That is funny. That does sound like that. It is a very funny name. Uh, I would not have thought that that's. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's not like I know what HAL stands for either. Is it also something like human?
Well, they said they were one step ahead of IBM. So
Oh,
their
okay.
letters are all one increment in front of IBM.
Okay.
So they're H, A, and L instead of I, B, and M.
All right. Well, yeah. It sounds vague, but I mean they put out a lot of variety and I like, you know, I've actually played at least two of their games before and this one now and I think they have something going for them.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh
So it branched off. It declared bankruptcy in 2000. It branched off into the company's Nude Maker, which I don't know if that's just like poorly
whoa.
translated somehow. um, because it's like it's not a reflection of like their games in any way. Like they're
Hmm.
but for some reason, one of their companies that branched off to is called Nude Maker. Sandlot, Spike, and Grasshopper manufacture.
A grasshopper, yeah. The is grasshopper. That's the Suda 51. Is it Suda 51?
Yeah, yeah, they
Okay,
did like No More Heroes and Killer 7 and
okay. I
um
played No More Heroes, the first one. It was good.
all right, so that's human entertainment. Um and as humans, I felt like we were pretty entertained by this game.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about the gameplay here. So you are a Kabuki actor, um, but I wish there was a little bit more to that Kabuki side of it. He's kind of just, it's almost like you took a character from a video game, a different video game, and just like planted him into something else.
Yeah.
But he mainly attacks with his hair, almost kind of Shantae style. If you've ever played a Shantae game, he can attack with his hair. He's got this little kind of stubby punch when he's ducking, and then he can also shoot various projectiles from this chip meter. And he starts with just a basic kind of weaker projectile. And over the course of the game, that gets upgraded into other options that he can cycle through. So there's also the energy gun, which is just kind of a bigger projectile. The fusion gun, which branches off, it's a little bit more like a spread shot. The quantum bombs, which are look like sticks of dynamite, and the remote controlled bolo, which homes in on enemies around the screen. And it does seem like just spamming these against some of the bosses is the best way to go about certain boss enemies. We can talk a little bit more about some strategies for the bosses, because this game has something unique about the boss encounters that does make them quite a bit easier if they seem really challenging. But you've got this chip energy that also replenishes at the end of each stage. You've got a pretty generous life meter,
Hmm.
and a pretty ungenerous clock. You do have a time limit, and that
Yeah.
really keeps you moving in some of these stages. Which I get having timers in games sometimes, but I always feel like a little unnecessary pressure. I feel when I'm in a video game that has a time limit. It's like, why is I like being able to explore and pace myself, and sometimes it just feels like an arbitrary constraint.
It's fair enough. I think Ninja Gaiden also had one too. And I don't know if they were just like, oh, we'll do that too.
Even like Mario Brothers has one, but I never felt like that one was super
That's true.
strict. Like it sort of
Yeah.
it keeps you moving, but there's a certain like tension to it when the music speeds up and everything. And this just feels a little bit like it's just kind of there as just one more thing to make the game harder. But it is what it is. Um,
Yeah.
and you're going through levels. You're fighting a lot of weird, robotic, biological, creepy virus things that look very humanoid in a lot of cases.
Hmm.
You're fighting some bosses. It's not that long a game, and then there's little cutscenes where his team tries to communicate with him, but a lot of what they're talking about really is not reflected at all in the actual levels.
No, I have no idea. I had to like skip those. I was just like, I don't know. I don't know what you're saying.
Like I liked having other characters around and this sort of like pretense of a plot, even if it was clearly very tacked on to a pre-existing game. And they're like, well, we need to come up with an English language story to go along with this game, which I guess it works. I don't know. It's better than not having a story. It
Yeah.
is kind of funny when they're like, "Oh, we've lost contact with him. Oh, his like brain waves have been disconnected or something." You're like, they're describing all this stuff that's going on when it's like you just play through another level and then they reconnect with him again. And, like it's like, everything is fine. Like it's not reflected at all in the stage or the
No.
gameplay.
No. I feel like they could have like I don't know, they could have used like those that cutscene with those people around the table to maybe give hints or be like, prepare yourself. They say this area is ruled by, whatever this boss is, and maybe you might be weak to this or something. Like give a hint or something. Like I don't know, something that it's like, oh yeah, this makes like use of the scene for the level or something.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's written by someone who has never played the game. Like they
Yeah.
just needed someone to quickly write a sci-fi story and splice it together in between the scenes.
Yeah. I I agree with you. There's a lot of compounded things that I think kind of knock the experience down a little for me because it's like it's tough. On top of it, you're timed. On top of it, it's like there's some resource management stuff where you start getting like stingy over your like projectiles. Um, so you just end up sort of like really having to balance all that and just make it through the level as best as you can with what you have. But I think the game has a lot going for it too, gameplay wise, because it
Mhm.
has like you almost it kind of it has like this cool like feature where you can like hang on to platforms and like swing yourself off of them to grab to other platforms, and there's like different ways of navigating where you can choose to stand on the platform that you're hanging on if it allows for it. There's different like kind of jump like lengths for you too. So if there's like different platforms that are sort of more separated, you have to kind of navigate it with like the right jump and everything. It almost feels like, and it feels cool when you pull it off and you got
Yeah.
all this like cool swinging around navigation going. It almost like encourages like if you were to speed run this game and get like pretty good at that, it'd probably like look pretty cool. Um, and I thought that was neat. And there is like strategy to it, I guess. I don't know if you want to talk about the bosses now, but I guess I could talk about some kind of secret that I don't know. I was playing the bosses,
Yeah, I
without
don't mean to be
knowledge.
overly cryptic about it. I just thought that we can talk about. There's like a very crucial cheat for this game that I think makes it a lot more palatable in some ways. I shouldn't say palatable; it's fun by itself. I don't mean to sound overly hard in this game because I actually don't mind that the story doesn't totally jive with what's going on in the actual stages, and I think all
Yeah.
the weird localization stuff is actually kind of neat on some level, just from a historical perspective. It's just more amusing, I think, than anything. But yeah, so this game can be pretty tough. I think the bosses are neat because I do like games that give you bosses that feel kind of equivalent to your character in some ways. And
Mm.
so playing against these, like, whatever they are, these humanoid things that are fighting you that are about your same size, they're neat. They feel like little duels. And
Yeah.
if you pause the game while you're fighting a boss, you can push up and down on the controller and redistribute your chips and your life. So you can convert your chips
Whoa.
into your life meter, and I think the other way around. So you can really just kind of spam your projectiles at the boss, then like use up your life and just spam more projectiles at them. Or if you're taking a lot of damage, like, and I just want to just go crazy with your hair whip and not use up the chips, you can use your chip meter as like a second life bar, and that makes them much more forgiving.
That's cool. I did not know that. I guess my strategy for the bosses was like there seems to be like a phase with all of them where as soon as they get like kind of like at their weakest, where they have like just a little bit more to go, they start to pick up in speed and they're actually like harder to hit. But like for the first phase where they're kind of slower, they're generally like easier to manage. And I would just use like your hair, if you can, for those phases, and then use like your good stuff for that second phase, just to like destroy them quickly. Because the first phase is usually like decently manageable. The second phase is usually where it's like, oh my god, how do I even avoid this guy now? But like that's where you get your secret weapon, which is like your cool projectiles, and you can spam it on them and usually do good work against them. So, and then this tip that you shared, might help with that too. So that's cool.
Yeah, I think you like don't want to be too afraid to take damage in some of these situations. Like it's better to get up close and hit them a bunch of times with your hair because you can do more damage more rapidly to them than they can to you. So even if
Yeah.
their attacks are hard to avoid or whatever, like I mean, unless you're trying to play some kind of like very like perfect run or something where you don't take damage, don't be afraid to take a few hits, run up close, and just like go crazy with your hair whipping.
Yeah, it's you have invulnerability frames for when you get hit, where like you're safe for a couple seconds. I don't know if the bosses do as much, but you could just kind of go ham on them a little.
Hmm. And then I didn't get this far when I was just playing on my own. Um, Maybe I'll go back to it and try to get further later. But the like dynamite ability, like the bomb you can throw, is very powerful and seems to be very effective at the bosses from like footage of later levels that I was watching. Um,
Yep. There's a robot that goes like to like the ceiling, and it's like, oh, how am I gonna hit him? And that's a good opportunity to hit them with the bomb.
mhm.
Um, yeah, the later levels get progressively tougher. I feel like they are also something that makes them sort of intense too. Is that like they're sort of like a vertical obstacle course where it's like a lot about swinging around and landing in the right spot, but be careful because this part slides, and then you got to avoid the enemy. But if you get hit, then you can kind of fall way back down again, and you have to try to get back up, and you're being timed, and it's like the whole thing is really intense.
Yeah, I think that's like the main issue I have with the level design in this game is just that even though those upward climbs are are a nice variety compared to just the standard running to the right, it can feel unforgiving to like clear some platforming and then fall and then just have to do it over again.
It's pretty brutal. I don't even mind like a good 70% of it, but then there is a part like you could like really master the beginning of those levels, but then as soon as you get to like the end, they'll throw something so nasty too, which is like, come on, like it's already like pretty demanding, but now you're like, here's like a jump that's so specific, and you're gonna have to like do it perfect or you're gonna get hit. Or we're gonna throw in like these spike balls that just like shoot in from the sides of the screen and like move around while you're like jumping through the platforms, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, it can be pretty
uh
relentless.
yeah, it can get you while you're down. It's got like yeah, I mean, if you play any from soft games and you're like, oh, I think I'll be safe, that clearly must be the hardest moment. It's like, just prepare yourself for some bull to to come flying your way right at the top.
But like you were saying, I do like how this game is animated. I do like how the character looks
Hmm.
in motion, particularly when he's climbing around and swinging through the air. And I think those parts are really well done.
Yeah, the climbing around I think is so cool and like varied, and gives you like varied strategy to your navigation. It's like, oh, I have to jump this length, or try to go up the platform this way, avoid the enemy that way. And like, I don't know, it gives you like a cool momentum too. And it's just like, it looks fun, it looks cool, it feels nice. Graphically, it's cool. I wouldn't say the music is as exciting as like something like Ninja Gaiden, but like the visuals, the sound's not bad, and like the mechanics are really cool with like a difficulty that is like, you can overcome it if you have the NES patience for it. You can also just play it with save states, whatever.
Mhm.
But like, it's cool, and it's not too long. Like, there's 5 worlds. You do get some recovery of health and resources like each level. You can collect like 1-ups throughout the level too. That'll give you chances, and you have like, I think, 3 continues. um, so I mean, you could probably, considering the length of the game, I think it's still pretty beatable.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's not like, gosh, how would you ever get through this kind of hard, right? It's
Eh,
the kind of thing that like if you play it enough times and familiarize yourself with the stages, you'll get like a little further each time and then maybe eventually get all the way through.
Yeah.
This game also benefits by having a level select sheet. So if you don't want to deal
Ooh.
with save states and want to have sort of the ability to save your game, it does require a second controller, however. So the level
Whoa.
select code is on the title screen, I believe. You push A 8 times, B 4 times, and then right 16 times on the second controller, and
Whoa.
that will bring you to a level select screen where you can push up and down and select where you want to start. So the fact that it has that, I think, does offset some of the difficulty quite a bit. I'm not the biggest
Hmm.
fan of like not having unlimited continues for things and stuff, but at least this kind of functions in that way.
Yeah, no, that's great. That works for me. Yeah, things like that, things like save states, all that stuff, I think is useful. I feel like back in the day, you would get a game like this as a kid, and that would be, if you weren't totally loaded or whatever, that would probably be your game for like a while. So you just get like really good at that one game and you'd have all the time in the world to play it. But as an adult, it's like I don't quite have the time that I used to for some of these old difficult games, which I still enjoy, but I have to find a more modern way to play them. And I think options like this are fine.
Mm-hmm. And then speaking of the music, I actually quite like the music in this game.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's one of the best soundtracks ever or anything, but like I thought some of these songs are pretty catchy. And I
Yeah.
feel like actually the music was one of like my favorite things about it, or like one of the things that I felt was most kind of memorable about it that I might take away from it was like, oh, those were some cool
Hmm.
kind of trippy songs.
Yeah, it goes really good with like the visual vibe of the game. Like I feel like I mentioned Ninja Gaiden again, but it has like a kind of a more like fun, like actiony kind of soundtrack. That's a little more like catchy in a different way. It's like very exciting, but this is like a little more atmospheric, catchy but atmospheric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I particularly liked the song at the final boss, which I didn't get to,
Ooh,
but just from watching it, I thought that that was a good song.
ooh. Well, I haven't heard that one yet, so.
I did enjoy watching Jeremy Parrish from Retronauts. He has a series called Gintendo where he drinks gin and plays Nintendo games. And I
Oh.
enjoyed his playthrough of this game as well. And I would not say that he particularly enjoyed this game, but
Fair enough.
I think you can watch someone in real time dying at things and having to play through the same levels over and over again. And that's how I learned about the level select code. But
Whoa.
it's
I
it's
don't think
worth
I could
watching that.
play. That sounds fun. I don't think I could play like buzzed or drunk or anything. I feel like I'd play worse.
Yeah, it's not
um,
really like it doesn't come across like drunk person playing video games or anything. He seems to just I don't like he seems
just having a
pretty
drink.
normal. Yeah. So, but I guess just hypothetically, I mean, you don't see him playing. It's just like, footage of his game, but I guess he's drinking
Uh,
some gin along with the game. It really just feels like a kind of normal let's play kind of thing. But
okay.
he definitely gets very frustrated with it in a way that was amusing, but I appreciated his perseverance.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm sure this game will not be for everyone, but I feel like it'd still be too harsh to be like it's a bad game, especially by like NES standards. Like tons of NES games are pretty tough, and
Mhm.
they go by a different kind of um perspective of like, yeah, this is like the style of the time. Uh, whether or not it like ages as well as like a Mega Man 2 or like a Ninja Gaiden or whatever, is maybe not to that level, but it's got still a lot going for it, I think. So
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard, but there are plenty of NES games that are harder than this
yeah.
game. I do wish the abilities were a little more memorable. I like that
Yeah.
he gets a new ability in every stage, but a lot of them do feel a little bit inessential. And I just
Yeah.
think when you think of all the interesting things that you could do with a cybernetic Kabuki actor, it's just kind of like different orange projectiles.
Yeah, it would have been cool if like he had different. It's weird because I was watching clips of that Zapang movie, and like his thing is just having different swords and sword attachments that change his weapon, and even finding different looking swords. And I was like, there's like not even a sword. I mean, I know he's not a samurai, but like if it's based on this guy from the movie, it's like it doesn't even have swords, which would have given him some nice reach. And he could have maybe had different types or something, different even abilities or something. I don't know. It really is all like pellets.
It's a game that could benefit from one more system or one more something.
Yeah. It's like it's just shy of like being, I don't know. It's like it's missing something in the sauce, like a little something in the ingredients that would have really like elevated it. And I think things like that, like a little bit of more consideration for some of the level design and some of the abilities would have like taken it really further.
Mhm. Yeah, if there were a Kabuki Quantum Fighter 2, like this feels like a really nice like first draft of the game that
Hmm.
they then could have built on. And I think at the end credits they even say something about like he'll be back or something, but I guess not.
Guess not. No, he
that
won't.
that adventure didn't go so well. The next time Scott went on a computer,
He did not come back.
um,
Uh,
but it does seem like a good foundation for it's like I would see this character come back again. Like it's such an original idea.
yeah, if Hal ever wants to come back to make it themselves or something, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. We've spent all this time predicting what's next for Kirby, and it's actually going to be Kabuki Quantum Fighter in 2025.
That would be wild. I wouldn't mind in a way, like if Hal did want to do like different stuff. Like it seems like the kind of game where maybe like Shinya Mizaki's like crazy, like spooky art would be like kind of make sense in a follow up or something.
Yeah, we know he likes like Evangelion and stuff like that. Like he would like not be a bad fit for this kind of thing.
Yeah, I would check it out.
We were also we were talking about this before we started recording, but there is a very memorable commercial for this game as well, which I will play the audio for here.
Cool. Crazy, insane, beautiful, awesome. Me. Quantifier is wild. It's hype, definitely fresh. It's colorful. Most excellent. Graphic, nuclear, cool. Awesome. Big, graphical. This new game is excellent. Better than hanging out with your buds, chilling with the girls. Better than a mall. Pizza. Better than having a party at your house when your parents are gone. Mondo correct. Bodacious.
So it's very 90s,
Yeah.
almost like a parody of the 90s.
Yeah, it doesn't feel real, but it is.
Like no children talk this way.
No, I don't even know if back then people were saying. I don't know. Maybe they
No.
were. I don't remember, but it's like whenever people do, yeah, like make fun of the 90s or do like a reference to the 90s, it's like, oh wow, yeah, totally tubular, bodacious, like radical, cool.
I like how the commercial says nothing about the game too.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like buy it because it's better than everything you love, kids.
It's graphical.
It's graphical. It's got graphics, but just buy it.
It's better than having a party when your parents aren't around.
Yeah. I don't think I think it's interesting too because like don't they like not even mention like the Kabuki part in the commercial either?
Yeah, they just call it Quantum Fighter.
Yeah, they just don't want to even touch like the Japanese elements of it. They're like, no one's gonna know what this is. I feel like now in today's like media landscape with like the proliferation of like anime and Japanese things sort of being more mainstream even here, it would not be a problem. But like when I was younger in the 90s, it was like a lot of things had to be changed. Names had to be changed for like localization for anime and things. That's like the infamous like jelly donut in the Pokemon episode where they like changed the rice ball to like a jelly donut. It's like,
Oh, I'm not
because
familiar with that.
oh, it's so like it's such a famous like a
Is
funny
there like an
thing.
onigiri and they make it like a
Yeah,
jelly
they
donut?
make it into a jelly donut. Well, he's holding it and it doesn't look like one, but he says it is. It's very funny. Um, but yeah, it was like such a thing back then to like even reference like Japanese culture in a way because it was like, oh, no American's gonna understand it. But so they sometimes avoided saying the Kabuki part for this game when advertising it, but that is in the name.
Yeah, that's a good observation. I hadn't thought about that being the reason. But yeah, surely it is.
Oh yeah.
We'll have to use that as a scale now when we talk about future Kirby games. Are they as cool as having a party when your parents aren't around?
I'd
Are
say
are
yes.
they as cool as pizza?
Maybe, yeah. It's fun. I like it. It's goofy, obviously now, but it's kind of part of the charm.
Yeah. I think it was goofy back then too. Or at
Oh
least like
yeah.
very cheesy.
I feel like everything was cheesy back then, though, don't you think? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's always like that with stuff aimed at kids or something. It's just like always cheesy.
I was thinking of like what the modern day equivalent to like advertising a game in this way would be, and just like all the Gen Alpha slang without any context describing the game at all.
I wouldn't even attempt to try to sound like do a parody of a modern one because I'm like at an age where I don't even know what like people are saying right now for like cool and bodacious and radical or whatever.
It's a little hard to sort out like meme words from actual slang because there's so many like skibbity toilet things and sigmas and things like that. Where
Do kids still do like the Fortnite dance?
I don't. I spend a lot of time around middle schoolers as a substitute teacher, and I do not see people flossing anymore.
Okay, flossing is out. Okay.
But yeah, they've got a lot of their slang and stuff like that. I do know some teachers that were playing Gen Alpha slang bingo, which
Oh
I
my
thought was
god.
very funny. And the kids didn't know, and if someone said a word that was on the bingo card, they would have them like come up and like sign it or something.
Oh my gosh. That's fun. The Nintendo Power also just calls it Quantum Fighter, actually. I'm looking at the Nintendo Power feature for it, and it's also just called Quantum Fighter.
Yeah, they leave out the Kabuki too. So this is issue 21 from February 1991. The program calls for hair-raising action. And then they
Whoa.
go through the different abilities here. There's nice little maps of each stage.
Yeah, the art is pretty cool for this game too. And they do actually mention Kabuki, but it's like in the corner over here on a separate thing where they explain what it is.
Oh, and the bosses have names.
Oh, they do.
Yeah,
Okay.
Major Virus Unit Vulcan is the first one. The second one is Major Virus Unit Gemini, which makes sense because he splits into two.
Oh yeah.
Major Virus Unit Chrome Dome.
I like this boss a lot, actually, the Chrome Dome boss.
Yeah, I really like these designs.
Yeah, the art's cool for this game. If you ever get a chance to the listeners to look up this issue and look at the art for this game, is cool.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Main Virus Bug, B-U-G.
Oh my god, the name for the final boss is not what I expected.
Major Virus Unit Robbie.
Yeah. I thought it would have like a more dramatic name, but it's just like Robbie.
Well, there is like one more final boss after him.
Oh,
They
wait
show
a
him.
second. No, it just goes to the Ninja Turtles.
Oh, they leave it off there.
It's a secret. Oh my gosh.
They leave it a secret.
Oh my god.
Ooh.
Well then I don't know if I've seen the final boss. I thought this was the final boss. How do you get to the final boss?
I think it's just right after Robbie.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's really even like a level to it. I think it's just like immediately there's like a cutscene and then the final boss. I do like with Robbie how he uses his hanging spin jump while fighting the boss. So like you've been doing all this platforming, like to use it while you're fighting this big robot and you're hanging on him too is cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very thoughtful.
You have to scale him like he's his own sort of like vertical platforming thing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But yeah, they're very generous actually with this guide. They show you like almost the entire game.
Yeah, man, Nintendo Power is cool. I never had it as a kid because my family didn't have that. But like, I can't imagine just like getting this as a kid and just going like wild and seeing all like the cool art that they put in there and like probably wanting all these games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was almost like Let's Plays before you could watch someone do a whole walkthrough through the game. Like you could at least like look at what all the levels looked like and hear someone else describe them.
Yeah, that's pretty good way of putting it.
Yeah, I grew up with Nintendo Power and it was always fun to see these maps and everything. And like I will occasionally go back to old issues if I'm playing an older game and look back at their guides. They were really helpful.
That's cool, yeah. Nowadays it's like, I don't know, it's kind of nice to have physical media like this that has like detailed things, and then also like, oh, it's like explaining Kabuki theater and showing like the actual art from the creators in there versus like you might just look up like a guide online. It might be kind of plain, but this is nice.
Mm-hmm. So that's Kabuki Quantum Fighter. Do you have any other thoughts before we wrap this up? I think we've kind of covered it all, but any general impressions to wrap up the episode?
I think that it is a cool game put out by HAL, and from like a cool studio. And I do think it might be flawed or maybe a little intense for some players. But I think if you enjoy NES games and other NES games similar to this of this difficulty, then I think it's like another good game within that group of style games, because I mean it looks good and it's got cool swinging mechanics and some cool bosses, so I'd still say check it out.
Yeah, I think sometimes, I don't know, when people talk about hidden gems or like games that flew under the radar, sometimes people are looking for things that are going to be as good as the best games on the system, and this is probably not going to be that for you. You're not going to be like, wow, this is one of the best NES games out there. But I still thought it was pretty fun, and I think it's still worth checking out. And it's okay for a game to maybe be a little flawed in some ways, because you can still appreciate other aspects to it. And I think this game has a lot going for it with its aesthetic and just with its general atmosphere, with its music, and with a lot of clever ideas that I really haven't seen in other games, even if in other ways it might be a pretty straightforward platformer that doesn't break the mold, perhaps as much as it could.
Yeah.
Oh, well, one thing I would like to do before we close too is I'm curious how much this game costs. If you wanted to go and get a Kabuki Quantum Fighter for yourself, of course, this game is available on the internet in ways, right? That that you can always find it, however you want to do that. But if you want to get the actual cartridge, I wonder how much it costs. Let's see.
I'm curious myself, actually. Has it gone up? Oh, it's actually not expensive. That's great. I mean, I see some expensive listings. They usually come with like the box and everything, but I don't know. I'm seeing some for like around $30. That's not bad.
Yeah, I'm seeing the 30. I'm seeing cartridge on its own for like 25.
Oh, that's nice. That's cool. Like, I think that's pretty solid. And then if you're a retro game collector, for like $25, you get like a pretty solid 2D platformer in the vein of some other ones that, just more of that kind of action. It's cool. It's good.
I'm kind of curious about the manual for this game. Should we look up the manual?
Sure.
I found a PDF for it.
Oh.
I will send you a link to that.
Sure. Ooh. Oh my god. Oh, look at this little guy. Well, it's not a colorful manual, but it does have a lot of pictures. So you may find that useful. It's got the story in there. Ooh, we could see the old HAL logo there.
They show you all the weapons you're going to unlock, too.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And they show you what all the enemies are and their names.
And special techniques.
The Pit Hounds.
Favorite enemy, the Pit Hounds.
The Boomerangers. the Bouncing Dinos.
Yeah. These are good. This is very good.
All right. Well, that's Kabuki Quantum Fighter. We hope if we have piqued your interest, you'll go and check it out. And if you like this game or have any thoughts on it, please email us. Let us know how it goes. And we will continue to do episodes like this as well, where we explore other games from HAL's library. If there are particular games that HAL made that aren't Kirby games that you would like us to talk about, please reach out to us and let us know too. We're happy to take requests. And if it seems like there's a lot of interest in something, maybe we'll check it out. We can't guarantee that we can do like every request necessarily. But hey, if there's something you want us to talk about, feel free to let us know. We're always happy to hear from listeners. So that'll wrap up this episode. But this has been Kirby Conversations. Again, I'm Sean Douglas. I'm here with Bridget. And Kirby Conversations is also produced, along with us, by Kai, Captain Dangerous Parker, and Gigi. You You can follow us at the social media handles in the show notes. You can email us at mail@kirbyconversations.com. Our theme music is by Megan Kello, in a new arrangement by Duncan Pixel T. Smith, and we will be back in another 2 weeks with more Kirby Conversations.
Bye.
Bye! Kabuki Quantum Fighter was big in the 90s, and now it's back for Generation Alpha. No cap, this game hits different. Bussin'. Fire. Better than playing Fortnite with the bros? Better than tickets to Taylor Swift. Not gonna lie, fam, it's giving total Sigma vibes. Savage.